The Fast and the Furious franchise has been a part of my life for over 20 years. In fact, I was 10 years old when the first movie came out. Watched it in theaters, probably shouldn't have, but after that, I wanted desperately to be a street racer growing up. And then you had video games like Midnight Club, Need for Speed, just all these games that like fed into my brain as a child and just made racing look cool. To me, Fast X puts the franchise back on track, especially after the abysmal F9 that came out a few years ago. And a big part of that, as I'm sure you'll read in other reviews and other YouTubers that you watch, is Jason Momoa. Okay, I'm a big fan of Jason Momoa. I love him as Aquaman. I hope he never leaves the role. But in this role right here, he is having the most fun. You could argue this saga was tailor made for somebody like him. Just the amount of charisma that he brings, the amount of energy, the way he delivers these ridiculous lines. Jason Momoa plays Dante, who is the son of Reyes in Fast Five. You could tell the Dante character is sick. He is twisted. They say in the movie that he got checked into a couple of mental institutions at an early age, showed early signs of just psychotic behavior, and it was always his dad that bailed him out. Now, aside from Jason Momoa, for myself, I felt like this franchise is really starting to get tiresome. Okay, they're starting to repeat some of the old storylines and action set pieces and humor. It gets pretty dry. The comedy bits between Tej and Rome, they were cool for about 2 movies, and now it's just tiresome. And the fact that they have all these sort of plot conveniences to bail these heroes out when they should have died. Okay, there is a big action set piece in Rome, and the team gets finds a way to not only save Rome, but to come out of it barely scratched. After a while, it just gets very repetitive and little routine. And if this franchise has any hope to continue going forward, it has to find more ways to get creative. There's certainly a lot of action in here, but I'd say about at least half of it, you're just watching and you don't mind the ridiculousness because you've bought into it 3 movies ago, but it's almost numb. It's almost numb. Like you just there's no ah and ooh. I mean, you do get that every now and then, but it's a lot less impactful than say Fast Five, Furious Six, and maybe even Furious 7 to an extent. I will say though, there are some cool surprises in this movie, and this is where I'm going to get into spoiler territory if you haven't seen Fast X, so you've been warned. The trades kind of let it slip a few days before the movie released that Luke Hobbs, played by Dwayne Johnson, will be appearing in Fast X in a post-credit scene. Even though I knew that, it was still pretty cool to see him pop back up, especially after he was so set on never coming back to this franchise. Of course, things change, whether it's a dump truck full of money or maybe a franchise that you invested a lot in didn't work out. Whatever the case is, I'm happy to have Luke Hobbs back. Also returning is Giselle, played by Gal Gadot. This is the one I was crossing my fingers on. I knew nothing about, but I'm happy she's coming back. I mean, if you're gonna bring Han back, and if you're gonna bring Luke Evans, the other Shaw brother, back, I mean, nobody dies. Who else could show up? I mean, who else is left? Ja Rule, Hector, no, Jesse died in the first movie. Leon, I can't forget Leon and Eva Mendes, right? Eva Mendes. Where was Eva Mendes? She showed up in the post credit scene of Fast Five, and we haven't seen her yet. I want her to come back. I'm expecting to see Brian O'Connor back at some point. In fact, this movie uses alternative takes from Fast Five during the heist scene to kind of replay the events because Fast Five ties so much into Fast X, and I thought that was clever. I didn't mind that. And it kind of made me realize just how much this franchise still misses Paul Walker. There's still some cool things that they can do, but they got to get really creative when it comes to the action and you gotta dial it down when it comes to the humor, okay? Like, I'm gonna get into another spoiler appearance here. Pete Davidson appears in the movie, and granted, about I'll say 15% of the jokes in that scene with Pete Davidson landed. Okay, there were a couple of chuckles, but like now you got Pete Davidson, you got Ryan Reynolds, you got Kevin Hart, and it's like, can we dial it back a little bit? I don't know. Some of the new family members I'm happy about. Daniela McQuire, who played Ratcatcher 2 in the Suicide Squad. She has a pretty cool presence and a tie-in to another previous character. That's Elsa Pataski's character. John Cena as Jacob. Um, Spoiler here, has a pretty cool send off. Okay, let's hope he stays dead. I'm not too invested into the Jacob character to where if he stays dead, I'm okay with that. That's okay. Bring me some stakes here, please. Guys, look, I enjoyed Fast X. I really did. Surprised that I am looking forward to another one. I want to see where the story goes. To be here 20 years later, over 20 years later, and to be watching the 10th movie in the franchise. Think about that. The 10th movie. It's still going. It's still happening. And apparently, according to Vin Diesel, there's going to be two more if the story is right and if the money is right. Okay. Fast X has to make a lot of money for this movie to be profitable. I believe I read somewhere in the range of 750 million, which is very achievable. I think a lot of audiences who are still invested in this franchise are going to enjoy this one. And hopefully, it makes enough money to where we can get an epic conclusion. Let's end strong. So that's it. Those are my thoughts on Fast X. My name is Gio from Fandom United. Let me know what you thought and hit that thumbs up. I appreciate you guys so much. Until the next video, you guys take care.